Hello everyone, welcome you again in unit 3rd, environmental pollution. So in this particular unit we are going to discuss what is pollution, what are pollutants, the classification of pollutants. Specifically we will emphasize on air pollution, its causes, its effects, its remedial measures or control, and the other part of this module is the acid rain. So what is pollution? That means any undesirable change in the physical, chemical or biological characteristics of any component of the environment which can cause harmful effects on various forms of life or property. That is known as pollution. Now, in this context, pollution is from pollutants. Now, what are pollutants? So that means introduction of any waste, any contaminant via any source in the environment directly or indirectly which cause damage to man or the life or property, or you can say to the environment. That is, these are known as pollutants. We can classify pollutants in different categories. It depends on various parameters. The first is from ecosystem point of view. There are two types of pollutants, biodegradable and non-biodegradable. Biodegradable, for an example, the sewage, paper, garbage, and non-biodegradable, that means any heavy metal contamination, insecticides or any pesticides, the plastics, etc. Depending upon the form of which they persist after being released in the environment, there are two types of pollutants, primary pollutant and secondary pollutant. Primary pollutants means which are directly introducing in the environment. The secondary is the secondary pollutants are those pollutants which are generated from the primary pollutants. The second level of the pollutant, that is under the category of what? Secondary pollutants. The third parameter is depending upon their source. There are two sources of pollutants, natural and man-made, or you can say the anthropogenic. So natural pollutants, for an example, volcanic eruption from windborne or dust particles, or the carbon content and all. These are all the natural resources after fire and all. The second is man-made or anthropogenic. That means the commercial, industrial, household waste are under this particular category. Now, what are the effects of pollutants? Depending upon the exposure, you can say categorize them, or you can classify them, the effects of pollution under two categories, chronic or acute. The long-term exposure is known as chronic effect. The short-term exposure is known as acute. For example, the cancer, the lung fibrosis, etc. are under the category of long-term exposure of pollutants, or you can say the chronic part. The second is acute or short-term exposure. That means any impact on plants due to pollutants, any impact on skin irritation, etc., any impact on the eyes. These are under the category of the acute. Now, what is air pollution? That means the contamination in air. In other way, we can say that air pollution may be defined as any atmospheric condition in which certain substances are present in such concentrations that they can produce the undesirable effects on man and its environment. This is known as air pollution. Now, what are the sources of air pollution? Natural sources and anthropogenic sources. Natural sources, for an example, by anaerobic decomposition of organic matter, there is a release of methane. Methane is a greenhouse gas, but if its concentration exceeds, then it acts as what? Pollutant. Carbon monoxide, that means by breakdown of carbon dioxide, incomplete oxidation of that carbon, the incomplete oxidation of or you can say the oxidation of methane, there is a generation of carbon monoxide. It is a very harmful pollutant. This next is the smoke particles, or the gases, you can say, the salt sprays from the oceans, the dust particles. These are under the category of natural pollutants. The next is anthropogenic. Anthropogenic, that means from the industries there is a release of gases, sulfur dioxide, ammonia, the HF, HCl, H2S, the fumes of these particular acids, hydrofluoric acid, hydrochloric acid, okay, hydrogen sulfide. These are releasing, continuously releasing from the industrial part, and they are acting as a pollutant for air. Automobile gives hazardous pollutant by production of combustion of fossil fuels. Chlorinated hydrocarbons, organic phosphates, arsenic and lead, etc. These are also anthropogenic or man-made pollutants. Any release from nuclear explosion, the radioactive particles, these are also under the category of what? The air pollution. Now, sources of indoor air pollution. That means, for an example, I can discuss here with lots of examples. The first is radon gas, and its radioactive elements are responsible for a large number of lung cancer deaths each year. Radon can be emitted from building material like bricks, concrete, tiles, etc. because soil contains radium content. The next is carbon dioxide from fuels like coal, dung cakes, wood, kerosene. Kerosene, they all releases what? After combustion, they all releases what? Carbon dioxide. The next is the black soot particles which are generating from fossil fuel combustion. These are also act as particulate matter contamination to the air. These pollutants are also includes the carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and the benzoapyrene. This is also very toxic and harmful pollutant for the man health. From where benzoapyrene releases? Actually, benzoapyrene is also found in cigarette. So, due to cigarette smoking, there is a release of such component, and it is responsible for cancer. Now, which type of diseases humans can have due to air pollutants? The respiratory system, there is a respiratory disease, the cardiovascular damage, the fatigue, headache and anxiety, irritation of eyes, nose and throat, damage to reproductive organs, harm to the liver, spleen and blood, nervous system damage. So, by this diagram, you can understand how air pollutants or air pollution impact on us. Now, if we are discussing about carbon monoxide, actually less than 0.1 ppm concentration, there is no effect on life of carbon monoxide. But if the concentration increases, it is an harmful pollutant. It can decrease oxygen level in body by combining with hemoglobin. It can affect central nervous system, causing giddiness, laziness, exhaustion, etc. It reduces vision and cause cardiovascular disorders. High carbon monoxide level is potentially deadly and fatal to human life. Another is oxides of nitrogen. The short-term exposure of oxides of nitrogen at the concentration greater than 3 ppm can majorly decrease lung function. Concentration less than 3 ppm can be irritated to the lungs. Concentration as low as 0.1 ppm cause lung irritation and miserable disease in decrease in lung functioning in asthmatic person. Long-term lower level exposure can destroy lung tissues leading to emphysema. Serious injury in vegetation at certain concentration. That means you can say like vegetation means on impact on plants. So, there is a bleaching or killing of plant tissue due to air pollutants. There is an abscission of leaves due to air pollution. There is a reduction in the growth rate of the plants due to air pollution. Deterioration of fabrics and fade dyes. Metals can corrode due to air pollutants. There is a reduction in the visibility. Oxides of nitrogen in the presence of sunlight can also react with hydrocarbon, forming photochemical oxidants or smoke. So, smoke is a major issue nowadays due to air pollution. The another contaminant is oxides of sulfur. So with water vapor forming aerosols of sulfurous acids, a colorless mildly corrosive liquid is formed due to the contamination of oxides of sulfur in air. With oxygen in the air forming irritating sulfuric acid content or corrosive sulfuric acid content, acid content is formed. Hydrogen sulfide gas also smells like rotten egg, and it also forms by the combination of hydrogen and sulfur. The children, the elderly people, those who have chronic lung diseases and asthmatic are especially susceptible to towards the impact of oxides of sulfur. Ozone. Ozone, that means O3. Ozone acts as a powerful respiratory irritant at the level frequently found in most of the nation's urban areas during summer month. Ozone exposure may lead to shortness of breath, chest pain when inhaling deeply, wheezing and coughing. The long-term impact is that there is a reduction in lung functioning, the inflammation in the lung lining, and increased respiratory discomfort. So these are the impacts of ozone. The hydrocarbons, that means organic content. So the gaseous and volatile hydrocarbons are the ones responsible for causing air pollution, example methane, acetylene, ethylene, terpenes, etc. Ethylene in the presence of sunlight and nitrogen oxide forming ozone, which is harmful. Photochemical oxidants, that means oxides of nitrogen, as I discussed, with unburned hydrocarbon always form photochemical smoke. With the help of air and sunlight, sunlight plays a very important role for the formation of smoke. So what smoke causes? It causes irritation of eyes, nose, throat, headache, etc. If ozone and PAN are mixed with each other, they can cause damage to the plant metabolism. So, and the another component is CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, which are generally released from the air conditioners, the deodorants and all. So CFCs are also responsible for air pollution. In this context, we will discuss the ozone layer depletion in this context in the next module. Now, how we can control air pollution? So, if there is a dispersion of source location, if there is a dilution in the contaminants, reduction at source by process changes, that means substitution of raw material, substitution of fuel, modification of the processes, modification of the process equipment, so that we can inhibit the generation of the air pollutants. Reduction at source by using control equipments. There are variety of equipments, just as for an example, settling chambers, cyclone, bag filters in which water is used, the electrostatic precipitator in which electrodes may be used, the spray towers in which water is used to settle down the air pollutants, the dust particles. These all control devices depends upon you can say some chemical aspects, you can say. So the adsorption, the absorption, the condensation, the combustion, these are all the control devices we can use for the gaseous pollutants. Now come to the point, the last topic of this module is acid rain. Now what is acid rain? That means there is a formation of acid due to air pollutants. What are air pollutants? We have discussed many air pollutants, oxides of nitrogen, oxides of carbon, oxides of sulfur. These are all combined with water and they form acid in the air. Okay, and the moisture of the air get combined with or the precipitation in the clouds in the environment, then you can this particular precipitation of water when interact with such air pollutant, they form acid rain. So this is by this diagram you can easily understand that how water evaporates from the earth's surface and that water will interact with the air pollutants and then there is a formation of acid. Now what is the impact of acid rain? What happens when acid rain occur? So there is a deterioration of building materials, the priceless stones. For an example, Taj Mahal, there is a case study related to the dullness of the whitening of the marble of Taj Mahal, And there is another example, priceless stones, statues in Greece and Italy have been partially dissolved by acid rain. Aquatic life also affected by acid rain because their ecosystem get disturbed. The acid content get increased in the water body. The next is metal corrosion, but obvious the acid corrodes the metals. It damages foliage and weakens trees as well. So what we have discussed today, what is pollution, what are pollutants. We have discussed many air pollutants, their impacts, their how we can control, how control devices can be used, and we also discussed the acid rain. Thank you.